And we're not live.
Wait. Are we good?
I just said that to get you.
You dog. We're not live, but we are here. We are here. It's Josh, Erica, and Tom for the year in review episode of the LOOPcast 2025. You should be hearing this. It should be New Year's Eve. And we have prepared a show to look back upon the crazy, crazy year we call 2025. What a ride. It's Tom, Erica, and Josh. And the LOOPcast, of course, is brought to you by The Loop, every American Catholic's favorite newsletter. Wow, what a year. What a year. But before we get into it, I say I'm going to organize the show into 3 parts, okay? This is how I was thinking about the year. And I went back through all of our old shows. And the 3 major events, Trump becoming president, obviously. And so we get the first part of the Trump presidency the second time around. The other one that we get is, I think, undeniably the assassination of Charlie Kirk. One of the biggest events of my lifetime, let alone the year, and maybe the year of political violence. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And finally, the church got a new pope. For Catholics, a pretty big deal. We got a pope, not just a new pope, a pope from Chicago, first American pope, Pope Leo. So we're going to talk about that. We all have personal experience with that. Our fearless leader went on to sip macchiatos and have gelato and hang out in Italy. So we got to talk about that. But before we get into all of that, Charity Mobile. The reason we can do the show today, if you're still spending your hard-earned money with a phone company who doesn't value you and your beliefs, guess what? It's time for Charity Mobile. Pro-life phone company serving, and I got to throw up the graphic here. That's on me, Chief. Charity Mobile's pro-life phone company serving pro-life customers and causes. They send 5% of your monthly plan price to the pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice and no extra cost to you. And not only that, Charity Mobile has never raised their mobile plan prices in their 30-year history. And all plans start under $50 before taxes and surcharges. You get the same nationwide coverage as the big guys, and their friendly live customer service is based right here in the United States. Plus, Charity Mobile is running a special promotion for the entire Christmas season. Now through February 2nd, new customers can use promo code LOOPcast to get a free phone with every new line, plus free activation and free shipping, and a free power bank while supplies last. Switch to Charity Mobile and buy the way you believe. To get started, visit CharityMobile.com and use promo code LOOPcast. That's CharityMobile.com, promo code LOOPcast. Thank you, Charity Mobile. Okay. Trump winning. Josh, you predicted this, right?
Absolutely.
It wasn't a close call. You weren't looking at Polymarket, or I actually think Polymarket called it, but other places weren't calling it.
Well, no, so to be clear, all 3 of us predicted that if Trump was the Republican nominee, he would win. I went back, looked at 2023. We all predicted that. However, the Oracle of Petoskey, the Josh Mercer, the Mercenator, was the only one to call that he would win the swing states. So
good call.
Josh's particular contribution,
You're forgetting one more thing.
Okay, one more. Tell me, mansplain it to me.
No, it's not. But I did say to Brian, I said, not only is Trump going to win, he's going to win the popular vote too. And Brian thought I was out of my mind. And I said, he's going to do it.
Sure
and
enough.
He did.
Why did you say that, Josh?
I just felt like the backlash to 4 years of absolute terrible governance by Biden, the voters were rejecting this. It was clear. We had to do something on the border. We had to fix that. There was a lot of other problems. And I was surprised at just how many, Latinos voted for him. I mean, that was good, but even better than I had expected. But yeah, I thought it wouldn't be one of these like 2016 where he ends up with enough swing states and he wins the electoral vote, but then Kamala would have like 2 or 3 or 4, even 6 million more votes than him. I'm like, no, he's gonna. This is gonna be a win. And
it was. And he hit the ground running.
Yeah, in terms of energy and vibes too, like I think I remember being surprised with how much energy and mojo we had with like the podcast bro circuit. It seemed like people were lapping up the jokes, you know what I mean? Like the TikToks. There was like kind of a fun, like that
was the campaign side of things. But like in terms of like starting January 20th, the whistle blows, it's noon, he's sworn in. It was all systems go. He had everything going. I mean,
well, if you remember,
every level, every agency.
If you remember, I was there and they had to move the inauguration inside because it was too cold outside, which
I think it
Don't
was
believe.
I think it's
Yeah.
more the potential assassination threat.
I think it was safety, which makes sense. But it was in the rotunda, and I remember I was on the ground asking people how they were feeling. Lots of energy, of course. And I ended up watching the literal swearing in a Hard Rock cafe on Capitol Hill because people were just kind of piling into restaurants to figure out where they could actually see it because you couldn't see it. People were trying to find which way the motorcade was going to go. And so they had it in the rotunda, and then he moved right to where the Capitals play, the hockey arena, Capital One, I believe.
Yeah.
And then just immediately started signing executive orders. Immediately.
Oh, it was incredible.
It was crazy.
Including one on birthright citizenship right from the start.
Yeah. What do we have on an executive order montage here?
Yeah, it's not quite a montage, but I couldn't find a montage in the time I had. But this tweet, like this is day one. These are the executive orders we got, and this is just in the hours after he was sworn in. We had the rescission of almost 80 Biden executive orders. He was just like, that's done, that one's done, that one's done, that one's done. Freezing federal regulations, freeze on all federal hiring. This is like preparing the way for DOGE. We had federal workers must return to full-time in-person work immediately. Directive to address the cost of living crisis. We withdrew from the Paris Climate Treaty. The very next day, we also withdrew from the World Health Organization, which I was so stoked about. Then we had the directive to restore free speech, eliminate government censorship, directive to end government weaponization against political opponents. Not that Trump would know anything about that, but it was a crazy day, and it just kept going. So that was just day one. And for the next 2 weeks, he was signing like up to 20 orders every single day. And it just kept going and going. And I just remember comparing that to the walking cadaver who had just left the White House and his wife, and watching them fly away in the helicopter. And Trump's energy levels were like, you expected it to happen because you'd watched the campaign. But I think all of us were just like slack jawed a little bit at the rate at which he went. Yeah.
And most of them were actually promises that he had put on his website, his campaign website, and it was literally just putting in writing all the things
day
that he
one,
promised
I
on
will.
day one I'm going to do, and then ended up doing it. And then we had he pardoned the 23 pro-life activists persecuted under the Department of Justice FACE Act. Enforcement, February 3rd, executive order canceling taxpayer-funded abortion travel for service members. Signed an executive order banning men from women's sports. If you remember, they had that thing at the White House, February 5th. February 6th, establish a task force to address anti-Christian weaponization of government. Unfortunately, February 18th, you get the IVF expansion. Not great.
Not great. You missed you did miss one of the most important ones. That was day two. We changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes.
To its rightful name, Gulf of America.
Gulf of America, which still holds, I think, right?
Yeah,
it
the
does.
name change I like the best actually is that we call it the Secretary of War now. I mean, I instead of defense, because it's like this is what it does. It's about war making, as we were finding out. Obviously, true.
Of course. And then another one on that would be, remember when we were like going to take over Greenland?
Yes.
This is how much how fast things are. But there was like a real people were like, so we're taking Greenland now? And I remember like Donald Trump Jr. was there, and he's like handing out MAGA hats to people on there, and they're all fired up.
Vance went there too, Vice President.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. And I mean, this is just like we were talking a couple shows ago about the trolling of the mainstream media, and like the Greenland thing was actually headline material at like CNN, MSNBC. Heather Cox Richardson was like, "This is proof that Trump has empire in his heart," and they kept playing that and they kept playing into it, I should say. And it's just been such a wild ride watching them troll, is the word that comes to mind. And
then the other thing that I almost forgot. So, remember we
Greenland.
like the AI picture of Trump with the Canadian flag saying, "Oh, Canada." And then that was a whole nother thing. Like that thing actually rolled out around the same time as we had the amazing, and they should do it again. They better do it again. Remember the NHL mid-year did that competition between America, Canada, I think it was like Finland. Thing? Yeah, the Four Nations thing, which was awesome. That was one of my favorite things of the last year, sporting events last year, because you get the USA and Canada playing in the first round, and our guys immediately starting a fight. Like immediately started. I think it was like 3-4 fights. And you knew that this was kind of boiling over, like all the trash talk between Canada and the United States, like our little brother. Like you should become the 51st state. And so awesome. Like that, the energy in that. And we ended up losing. So shout out Canada. It still got hockey, but awesome. That was so cool. But yeah, the Canada thing. And then the other thing that still makes me laugh was, well, not laugh. So Jeffrey Goldberg was accidentally added to a Signal chat where we were going to strike a foreign country.
From the Atlantic, right. That was like Pete Hegseth's first week, was it? Or the Signal chat. I'd forgotten about that.
No,
Tom.
dude, I have not forgotten about the Signal chat. I could not believe it. And then we were getting like screenshots of actual conversations about like us. We were going to hit someone in Yemen. And look, the Houthis in Yemen are like, this guy, Jeffrey Goldberg, is like, I cannot, how is it possible that I am in this conversation? And then they ended up firing Mike Waltz, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, rightfully
he took
so.
The hit.
I mean,
he fell upon his sword.
I mean, my boy, you can't be adding. That was nuts. Like, yeah, that's one that I look back and laugh on for sure.
Yeah.
And then where else are we at with Trump? Okay. Other major events. I mean, how could you forget about Liberation Day?
Yeah.
The most chaotic rollout of tariffs that we're not sure if he can actually legally do.
The poster board with all the countries listed with all their tariff rates. Yeah.
And he was like tariffing countries that it didn't make sense to tariff, like countries that didn't even do trade with us or something like that. Like it was a big board. And then I guess
there's like the islands that don't do any trade that we put like a 10% tariff, 20% tariff, and people are like, why are you doing that? And it's because otherwise China would use it as a proxy and put their ships
could be some 4D there,
and they get around it. So people are like, I don't get that. I'm like, it's actually not dumb.
So Liberation Day was, we're going to tariff everyone. We're tariff every country. And then that ended up getting rolled back pretty quickly to come to the negotiating table. Every country come to the negotiating table. We'll negotiate with you individually to get a favorable deal. And then also I think through this was just like nuking China with tariffs. Like I think it was like it was over 100% tariffs on China. And everyone's like, oh, we're going to really get China at one point. And then that didn't end up. I mean, so much of this just got kind of negotiated away in deals, especially the China one. I mean, China is really, the China hawks, I feel like in the first term so far with Trump have to be kind of like, what's going on? I thought we were really going to be going after China. And now we're kind of giving them a break on a lot of different things, selling them chips, lowering tariffs. We're not going to decouple in the way that I think we thought we did. So that was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, the whole arc of the tariff freakout has been interesting to watch. And I mean, we're still in the process of discovering what all the tariffs will mean. But if I think back to Liberation Day and the ensuing 2 months after that, all of the talk on the left and the mainstream was tariffs are going to sink the economy. We're all going to be destitute by November. All the prices are going to go up. Jobs are going to go down. This is just going to be a total disaster. And of course, the worst predictions didn't come true. I don't know, Josh, maybe you could speak to where you think we're at right now. But, Trump ended the year by getting up in the White House in front for his message that everyone was convinced he was going to announce war on Venezuela. Yeah. And no, he just got up there and talked about how great things are. He toned down on the affordability, but he really made the case for, here's what the tariffs have done for us. We've actually made back so much money that I'm going to show you how much money we've made back. We're going to give every active military member, every U.S. soldier in the military is going to receive a check. It's in the mail for $1,776. Like how sweet was that? But he's sort of like showing the tariffs have not done what it was predicted they would do. They are doing what I predicted they would do. We have all this money coming in, and we're actually going to spend it by giving it back to the American people.
Oh, there's a Supreme Court ruling currently in process as to whether what we can do with this money, whether or not. I will slightly push back on that. It probably worked because the promise of it got rolled back. So you could argue that this was all a very Trumpian, art of the deal, negotiation tactic. If they would have been enforced the way they were set out on that first day, the predictions for, this being some kind of mass casualty event could have come true, but immediately it was rolled back on the tariffs. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if the tariffs had remained as high as they initially did, it would have caused a lot of problems in the economy. But a 10% rate approximately on a lot of these countries is not very punitive. Right. So obviously the costs are either absorbed or passed on to the customer. So it involves more money to the Treasury. As I said before, I think Trump is like, how do I get rid of this as fast as I can so that the Supreme Court doesn't force me to return it to the people, like, in rebates, to the businesses back to these other countries. So I think that's a smart move by him. Overall, the GDP growth has been very good. Gas prices are lower than ever, in the longest time. But there's still cost pressures, like I mentioned, like a lot of the policies that Biden had done, like, for example, we have lower amount of beef than we had in the last 70 years. So there's still some things that are going to take some while to unwind. And, we haven't yet seen it just yet enough. We've seen, there's been 2 million people deported that were here illegally. And so we're starting to see the cost of rent go down in lots of these major markets. So that's one immediate aspect that's been helpful. I think the next turn over the next 4 to 5 months, where hopefully we'll see some wages go up, because what's going to happen is you get, 2, 3, 4, 5 million people deported or self-deporting. Then there's going to be, the demand for, labor by citizens is going to go up, and the wages will go up, because the prices, the hope is that the prices would eventually start coming down, and that maybe that's just the new normal, and they're not going to go down necessarily, or it's going to be a slow fade. And so what needs to happen is we need to get wages higher, because, people right now are feeling a major pinch. So that's the hope. And if we see wages grow up in the first half of this year, then, the midterms are a wholly different picture than, right now you look at the midterms coming up in November, and you think Democrats have got a great chance of taking Congress and having Republicans suffer a big defeat. But again, the economy is going to loom large, and if wages are starting to go up and people feel better, that'll be a different ballgame. We'll see.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned there, Josh, what we haven't talked about a lot yet, but the closing of the border. That was just this year. And Tom, I just threw this this graphic in the show notes doc for you. These numbers were just incredible. You're looking at Southwest border encounters in the month of February over the years 2022 to 2025. Under Biden, we saw 166,000 plus in 22, 156,000 plus in 23, and almost 190,000 in 2024. And then flip forward a year to when Trump takes office, February 2025, 8,326. Are you kidding me? And the whole argument all the time had been, well, we need Congress to pass a new law because we can't enforce the border. We need more money down there. Nope. Trump gets into office, and within weeks we are done.
You're saying that's February of this year.
That was February of this year.
He had been president at the beginning of that month for a total of 10 days.
2 weeks. It was
days.
2 weeks into his presidency was this number. Yeah.
It's incredible.
It was. That is astonishing. That is promises made, promises kept. And that alone buys a lot of grace for Trump from me. We can talk about the disappointments and like, where's MAGA going? We're going to talk about, after Charlie Kirk, what's the state of the right? But this alone buys so much grace in my estimation of how this is going.
Polls confirm that. It's his strongest metric. Mm-hmm. I actually, here's what I want to do, because I'm not sure how much time we have. I have like one word, big things that happened in the first term. And I just want quick thoughts in review, how you thought it went. So I'm going to start off with the earliest of these, Doge.
I have a vulgar estimation of what happened with Doge, but I won't talk about it.
If you need a quick recap, Elon Musk was wielding a chainsaw on the stage where Donald Trump was signing executive orders. I think like 3 months later, he accused Trump of being on the Epstein list in one of the biggest, messiest public blowups of all time.
They broke up in April, basically. Yeah.
over the big, beautiful bill, which was going to be like $1 trillion. And they had even made like a website of all the things they were going to save. I think most people would say largely failed to cut the big bureaucracy in terms of cost savings. I think there's maybe some strategic wins with like USAID, what they exposed there. I think is no question. But currently Doge doesn't exist. I believe they've now interviewed people who are kind of in charge of it, and they're like, Doge as an entity doesn't exist, even if the spirit of it kind of lives on, type of thing. So that would be.
I'm so
a quick
surprised
summary.
that a Department of Government Efficiency wouldn't work. Huh.
I think
The
people had high
failure is
hopes.
in the title. Yeah.
People had high hopes. I mean, they brought in a lot of people from the outside, a lot of business leaders,
The
like Elon
boys
himself,
of
or
Doge.
like the CEO of Airbnb or whatever. And didn't they
Yeah.
they like retrofitted an Obama era like department that was signed off on and just renamed it into Doge, so they kind of had approvals. And then there's the scandal about them getting information from the Treasury, and they're like, no, we're not going to give you information from the Treasury. I mean, like the most uphill battle probably of all time, in terms of cutting stuff from the government.
Yeah, I think like over promised for sure, but at the same time, I do appreciate that there was national attention brought to the problem, right, which is the administrative state. And there was a conversation about the deep state, even if in the end Doge couldn't hold it together. I think part of it too is just Elon and Trump's personalities, but more than anything, the resistance from this massive fourth branch of government that no one elected. Like that is going to take years.
I had no hopes that it would get anything done. But the one thing I am happy to see different about Trump this year than he did in the first term was that instead of watching cities like Minneapolis burn in the George
Yes.
Floyd riots, this time he sent in National Guard troops to cities like Memphis and said, enough of this. You know, we're not going to just put up with our cities being completely overrun by a bunch of miscreants and vagrants and anarchists and psychos. We're going to establish some law and order here. And I think that was a welcome sight.
Amen.
That would get me to my next, would be immigration crackdown and ICE. I think the big one would be
Loving
making Kristi Noem the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Tom Homan, and who is
Tom Homan is just a pretty face, and Kristi Noem is the enforcer. So I think
who's the guy that's always scapegoated? Stephen Miller.
Oh, Steve.
Would be like the big pillars that I think. The big scandals that I remember from the last year would be the Kilmar Abrego Garcia sending him to the El Salvador prison, even just using El Salvador as a place for deportations.
Oh, it's not just that. I mean, it's that a judge told our federal government that we had to use taxpayer funds to fly him back to the United States, and then he had to be released out of custody. Like, so all this stuff about how we're supposed to pretend in the rule of law and the Constitution and all this stuff is absolute hogwash. Like there is no rule of law. There's no principles. There's no Constitution. You are forcing a duly elected government to use taxpayer money to fly him back. You release him into custody. Democrats bring him into their rallies and cheer him on like he's a hero. This guy beat the hell out of his wife.
They flew down to El Salvador.
This is just an abomination. It's like,
maybe one thing that I think of, you brought up here, that's kind of the whole Trump 2.0 project, is running into judicial interference, potentially on purpose. Like, it seems to me a strategy of, we're going to weaponize as much executive authority as possible to stress test the control that, these federal judges across the country have over what's supposed to be, federal, executive authority. So that would be one that I certainly think of, was a lot of the deportation stuff. It just required it. And then immediately just about everything he did was met with an injunction here and an injunction here.
He doesn't get to do anything.
Right, exactly.
All these judges will overturn everything.
That's what I think of with ICE. And then the other big one is, I think there was a strategy that I think everyone would acknowledge we have a tough challenge here we had Biden that released, estimate 10 to 20 million people into the country that are just brand new, either just completely illegally over the border or through temporary protected status or different hoops to try to protect. If you remember the Haiti situation in Ohio or Somalis in Minnesota. And so the strategy for removing was, well, we're going to go after the worst of the worst. And then there's the other strategy of, no, everyone that's here illegally, we're going to get rid of. If you remember, there was a big raid on that California farm, and they found out that they had children working there.
Right.
And that was a big showdown between Gavin Newsom and Trump over, what are we doing here? I remember there's a lot of showdowns over the masks worn by ICE agents, and people trying to pass laws to make sure they're unmasked. There's a lot of, this is controversial. I'm not even sure how I feel about it. Like hype edits on Twitter of like deportation using popular celebrities or artists, and then kind of bringing them into it. They didn't like that. And it was a big show to show to the public, hey, this is what we're doing. We're getting rid of these people, in a way that was very like Gen Z kind of memeified, which was an interesting strategy choice. As it stands right now, a year in, how do you feel about those strategic choices and then where we are in terms of progress?
Well, the last one I'm not too hip on, except for there are some hype videos that are just like very patriotic and pro-America stuff, as opposed to like the deportation stuff. So I do like those, the ones that are more patriotic and just celebrating our heritage, and that's nice to see. In terms of the deportation, I mean, rhetorically, they talked about it, especially in the first quarter, about how we are getting rid of the worst and focusing on them first, which is good. But like ultimately, I think it was brilliant on the aim of, I mean, the Biden administration had used the phones to create an app to help people come into our country illegally, or get to TPS, temporary protected status, or get all this stuff. But it's like, wait a minute now. And so I just love that the Trump administration is like, well, why don't we just use the same app to help people self-deport? And if they self-deport, we'll give them $1,000 for their trouble, and they can leave. And then if they want to apply for citizenship, go for it. But that was a good use of technology. And a lot of people are self-deporting. And frankly, it is good. Like this idea that, again, we have been a very generous country, allowing 1 million people to come into our country legally each year since 1965. If you say, oh, yeah, well, you know what? So what? We're going to also allow 10 million other people to come into the country illegally, and we're going to call you racist, bigot, xenophobe if you object to this. Then after a while, the words mean nothing. And I just tell you to go to hell. I don't give a crap, because you're obviously an enemy of the country at this point. And that's what a lot of Americans are. Just like more and more Americans are realizing that this kind of bullying isn't going to work anymore. That, in fact, there's nothing wrong with saying the first most basic duty of the state is to its own citizens. And so I think this policy is very good. I've had a lot of my friends who say, gosh, it's going to start to get unpopular, and Trump's going to keep doing this, and the American people are going to get really sour on this. People on the left, people on the right. And I got to tell you something. I don't think so. I think the American people are still very strongly in support of this, because this has been something that has stood the test of time. You ask voters, Democrat, moderate, independent, conservative, all across the board, the idea that illegal immigration, like, we can be in favor of legal, but illegal immigration, no, they got to go home. There's been wide bipartisan support.
I think it might be the only thing holding the right together right now.
Yeah.
Like, that is one thing I think everyone in tandem agrees on. In terms of like tactics, there might be disagreement, but in principle, I don't think anyone would say this is a massive problem.
It's an like unquestionable success that they've had in this year. I mean, the border crossings have gone down. And like I said, we mentioned before, like, just because, you look at the statistics of children that are born to foreign-born people in this country, that has plummeted. And so people are deporting, and then the articles are coming out now about like these Chinese businessmen that, that are.
Oh yeah. You missed that show.
100 anchor babies. Yeah.
Genius.
IVF and the surrogacy.
Yes. Let's talk about this. I mean, this is absolutely, asinine that we have this, and again, it wasn't like we ever passed a law assigning birthright citizenship. It was a Supreme Court case in the 19th century that was sympathetic about a Chinese immigrant who was like, I was born of Chinese immigrants. I wanted to visit China and come back, and now you're not letting me in. So from that, because we wanted to right that wrong for that one person, we're going to forever allow every single person who comes into this country illegally and gives birth to a child to grant that kid citizenship automatically. That is so stupid. And you get these people online like, I can't believe how evil and fascist our government is for, we need to be more enlightened like Europe. Brother, do you have any idea what other countries do when you're here illegally? I mean, with the exception of like Germany and Sweden, is completely like folded like a cheap tent. A lot of
they put you in jail.
Yeah, be in jail for months.
Yeah. All right. So in the interest of time, because a lot happened this last year, I'm going to give Erica a real alley-oop softball. Jeffrey Epstein.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. My favorite story of the year, the Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, we had so much like flubbing there. Pam Bondi should never have gone on national TV and said, yep, the files are sitting on my desk. I have the list. It's on my desk and I'll be getting it to you. And then the whole binders to the influencers stunt, that was like, that was That was, I want to say, a rookie mistake, but the woman is like 65 years old. Like she should, that was just
Well, and also
a
the
lot of
binders
hubris.
didn't include anything new. That was the
Yeah,
other
it
thing.
was
Overall,
all
overall,
publicly.
let's just say
Overall.
Pam Bondi, major disappointment.
Yeah. I
Right?
had high hopes,
The
but
hate speech stuff was terrible too.
yeah.
Oh, that
All
was
of it.
when she, I mean, that was dumb. But like,
Yeah,
prosecute
so
these people. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, the previous administration had done a lot of harm against the body politic, and a lot of these people deserve to be in handcuffs, like for some of the
right.
stuff that they pulled. You know, I mean, arrest Barack Obama for what he did. I'm sorry, like on the whole Russia collusion thing, he was a traitor. Biden, all these guys, they're all crooks.
Well, I guess they went
The
after
real
John
baller
Bolton.
move would be for Trump to pardon both of them
Yeah.
for their crime.
For them to be arrested, convicted, and pardoned by Donald Trump. I mean, that would just be Jeff's kiss.
But is
Jeff's
there?
kiss, Josh.
There's a lot to this Epstein story, Erica. If you want to continue, I think
mean,
Pam Bondi
well,
might
so
be
we
the
had the
beginning.
binders. This was like way back in March, and the rattling of the sabers, and like nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. Was it June? We had people starting to demand more on the Epstein files. And so then we had this weird, like, we're going to release the tape and the whole from the jail cell outside where he died. And they cut out a whole minute from, they thought no one would notice. And like people, this is people's job. This is Benny Johnson's job, is to just sit there and watch stuff like this and find the missing piece. And I mean, Candace Owens had a field day. A lot of people got a lot of subscribers over the Epstein files this summer. Then we ended up with like a few more flight logs. And then just in the last few weeks, we actually had Democrats demanding the release of the Epstein files, which was so ironic.
And Republicans.
They've controlled the White House and Congress for what % of the last 20 years? Nothing. And now they're like, oh, there must be Trump on the files. So we get these disgusting photographs starting to be released from the island. And
by House oversight Dems.
And every 2 or
creepy.
3 weeks, it seems like there's another slew of this, like the Epstein files. We're finally going to get them.
I feel vindicated in all this stuff. From all year, my position on this has been the same. I don't expect much of anything to happen from it.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's no list.
So
if there was
you're
ever a
wrong.
list, it was destroyed years ago.
not
You're wrong
much
on
of
that.
it. Okay. What has changed? They released the files.
What has changed? It's destroyed the entire MAGA coalition's trust. I think Donald Trump himself grossly underestimated people's true connection to the Epstein story, which is there are outside of government shadowy class of billionaires, people in influence. We're talking about Bill Gates. We're talking about the richest people in the world, heads of government, people within our own government that are pulling strings, even if it's not just the sordid sexual stuff, but that they're being influenced, blackmailed to the point where we have representatives getting texted by Jeffrey Epstein on how to question people in there. So the thought was that Donald Trump was going to come in and expose the deep state, destroy the deep state, bring transparency. And the way that he handled that destroyed a lot of his base's trust in how he would handle
project.
it. And so it's not that nothing happened. I feel like many people are completely blackpilled about that had a lot of hope, whether it was naive hope in that, but had a lot of hope that there would be a new era of transparency, especially with names like Cash and Dan Bongino, who basically made their careers on saying that he didn't kill himself.
So
that
you're
there
saying
was a
that,
list and everything like that. They've been completely
MAGA
disappointed.
land had high hopes at the beginning of this year, and then they have been disappointed because it didn't get as much information come to light as they thought would have happened, and they're disappointed in Trump because of this.
It's not about the information. It's about the way that it was treated.
None of this is a surprise to me.
It's not about the information. It's about how it was treated. It was then called a Democrat hoax.
There were people who were very optimistic that we'd get to the bottom of it. Now we got Cash Patel in there. We got Bongino. We're going to get all this stuff. Pam Bondi promised things were happening. And I'm just like, prepare to be disappointed.
Yeah. It could have been handled better, though. I mean,
Sure.
If there's nothing there, the best thing they could have done is still publish what's there and say, there's nothing here. It was all destroyed. The evidence was destroyed. Like, it's just not there.
And so the Trump administration and the DOJ's ham-fisted approach on opposing, making promises, tripping over themselves, blocking it, and then finally agreeing to release it, all that had the effect of angering a lot of people who trusted Donald Trump to make a difference and drain the swamp. I'm not disagreeing with you on any of that stuff. My point is, at the end of the day, what can be said for it other than a lot of MAGA people, as you say, are very frustrated with it. Andrew Mountbatten is now no longer a prince, and that's about it. I mean, this is my point. Like, it just didn't amount to much.
The royal family shrank again.
I think it also just affirmed many people's thoughts that we don't have a representative government and that the people that we put in office don't matter. And that people like Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates and all these rich billionaires on the island or whatever, they pull the strings and that we don't. I think
I would
that's
say
the bigger effect.
I would like to make a.
And maybe that's always been true, but I think there was a hope that
is,
Trump was
like,
different.
are there very powerful people who will use a lot of money and influence to protect themselves? Yes, of course. Does that mean the response we should get out of that is that politics is totally broken and you can't do anything to change anything or make anything better? I would say absolutely not to that. I mean, we elected Donald Trump, and there's two things consequentially that he has done this year that are great for the country and our culture. Number one, as we already mentioned, is securing the border in a way that previously people were like, oh, can never be done. We need a new law. He did it, and it's a success. Number two would be breaking the fever on the trans stuff. By getting elected and immediately cutting off all the taxpayer funds for all that kind of garbage, we did break the dam on this, and that has been a consequential good thing. So those are two very good things. Now, maybe if social conservatives, Republicans, whatever, had been more on the ball with regards to abortion back in the 70s, like we were now on trans, maybe we could have taken care of Roe within a few years instead of having to wait 50 years. Thank God we're able to kind of deal with trans within like a decade. I mean, not that it's perfectly over, but you start looking at the numbers and it's going down, way down, way down. The number of kids who are thinking that they're trans is down. It does really feel like we have turned a major corner. We have broken the fever on this. And that is an incalculable success, because just think of the ripple effects, for decades, for all these children that would have gone through this kind of stuff. I am extremely grateful and glad for that. Now, on the Epstein thing, like I say, that's maybe I'm just too cynical. Like, I'm like, yeah, if there really was some sort of file that had somebody dead to rights, whether it was a senator or Trump or Bill Gates or Bill Clinton or whatever, that file was going to get destroyed. Like, that's just my point. Like, there's just too much writing on it. Wait, you're telling me there might be a smoking gun file that would implicate a very influential president or politician or billionaire? Like, they're going to find a way to like destroy that file. I don't know. Am I crazy? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
no, but I think you're speaking around the real issue. And then also we're getting more and more emails now from the oversight Dems, which is a huge embarrassment for Trump, about Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with various leaders of government, Russia, Israel. And it's just like, you could have given these to us. Clearly someone's giving them to us. It's not you. And so it makes you look bad. It makes you look untrustworthy. And that to me is the problem. It's not that anyone thought that there'd be one smoking gun. Maybe some people did, but I'd speak for the majority of people that are frustrated with the handling. That's why they're frustrated. You could have done it. So, and we don't need to make the whole episode on
frustration as much, but I do feel like
we don't need to spend the whole episode on that. Other things to briefly touch on, because we got to move to Charlie Kirk now, and I think war is going to come up there. But of course, war really continued. That was one promise to end on day one. That maybe was an overpromise, but we're still engaged in some wars across the world. Government shutdown, longest government shutdown in U.S. history.
We had that.
That was long.
43 days.
That was long. It really was like, okay, this is going to be a week. And then
it reminded me of the Tea Party government shutdown, in 2010 or 11 or whatever it was, or 13, I forget, it just felt just as ineffectual. Like,
yeah. And like nothing really. Yeah, totally. And we ended up losing. And then AI would be the other really big piece. I mean, it's a cultural piece. It's also a government piece. AI was just like the word of the year. The Pope chose his name because of AI. AI is now slowly becoming in part.
My Twilight Zone.
Right. Yeah. It's real. I mean, the rise of AI is a huge part of our economy
AI
now.
told him to do it.
Yeah. Like AI has just forcefully entered everyone's lexicon, and many people use it in their daily life.
That kind of AI stuff. That's scary.
Okay. So let's go. Yeah. I mean, now I'd say the event of the year. No, I don't think there's any way around it. the really tragic public execution of Charlie Kirk at UVU, Utah Valley University, at a Turning Point USA event. Tragically, his life was taken while he was engaging with students, as he always did. Hallmark of his career, leading voice in the MAGA movement. Many said that he was the voice of the youth to President Trump, probably one of the youngest people in his years. And
Charlie had done so many, I've heard from so many other people that Charlie had done so many good things behind the scenes that he couldn't brag about. He, like there's something that Trump was about to do and he'd get to Trump and he just like was able to stop it cold. And some of these things we're only going to have to, I just tell you, some of these things we're only going to find out years and years from now. Like, oh yeah, by the way, you know what? Charlie Kirk was the one that was able to convince Trump to stop this or that. And you're like, wow, really? But he was actually, in terms of like an ego, a lot less ego than a lot of these other guys. He just really was, he was a true believer and he was phenomenal. And, that just shows you how effective he was, that the left want, not only did someone take him out and kill him, murder him, cold blood, but that others celebrated it because they were celebrating the death of somebody. It's not like he died of old age or, you know what I mean? Like, and like,
or after a long illness, or
he was prime of his life.
He was murdered.
Yeah.
In broad daylight in front of thousands of people. It just.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a couple of thoughts on the Charlie Kirk in the days that followed. Obviously, the shock of watching so many Americans celebrate and, refuse to condemn or somehow blame him because he put himself out there. I think that was just such a gut check for a lot of us. And so, yeah, in talking about it, but also in the days that followed, seeing the outpouring of grief and support and people coming together, there was so much hope that, okay, it's going to be a Charlie Kirk revival. Like, you killed Charlie, you created 1,000 more 10,000 Charlies, and I think as the months played out and that initial reaction, the Charlie Kirk effect, was very real. And I think that we will continue to see the fruits of what he started to build and the almost the martyrdom really that he suffered. We will see the fruits of that play out over time. But after that initial period, then you started to see this sort of like falling apart and self tearing apart of the right around him. So you think of like all the people who appeared at the memorial service, the big one with like the whole cabinet was there, and Trump and all these other leading figures on the right. And then how people just started to devolve into these like conspiracy theories, or we're mad about this or about, and you start to realize like the role that Charlie played, there really was only one Charlie Kirk. And the role that he played was also as a unifier among the entire right, that he wasn't just that he had Trump's ear, but that he was able to hold together the Trump coalition and sort of be a unifier in that way behind the screen, in addition to just being someone who could go talk to anyone.
Before we get into like the broader coalition things, I mean, I like many people probably will never forget like where I was when I heard the news. And I think before we even get to like what happened after, what I'm so grateful for is that typically when something like this happens, you get a surge of interest in the person and their life. And he had so much of his life on camera, and he engaged personally with college students all over the country. And like, to the point where I don't think many people on earth had engaged that much on camera with college students. And I know that the reaction, a lot of people were really like, kind of, oh, he was hateful, he was a bigot. And then I started to go through a lot of his stuff. And I was aware of him, but I wasn't like consuming his stuff regularly. And I mean, this was actually an interview he did right before he died. And it kind of puts everything, into perspective. Here's the video.
How do you want to be remembered? I mean, if I die, everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith in my life.
And Josh, as you said, like behind the scenes, very important. But I saw a progression even in his own life of, I think he started out as a very typical, rabble rouser, more libertarian bent. Not that there's anything wrong with it. There's great principle. Yeah, right. Like individual freedom, free market, socialism sucks, that kind of thing. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with that. But I think he realized as he was going along, that there was a real spiritual component to his arguments that he needed to make more for the soul, the individual soul of the people that he was talking to.
Yes. Yep.
And it was so obvious in the patience and the kindness and the message. And it was just it just felt like it was at the perfect time when so many people are now starting to question their purpose. And I mean, everyone kind of goes through this, but I think especially now with AI and everything rapid changing, people are kind of like finding what to hold on to. And I went through back so much of his advice. It was just the most beautiful. I have no question it's leading people towards a better life, potentially better afterlife. The amount of people that he brought to Jesus Christ is truly an inspiration. Like, I don't think there's a better legacy. Like, even if he was a great political operator, people aren't going to remember that. Like, people are going to remember him for exactly how he wanted to be remembered. And I really admire that about a man, where he has that much moral clarity about how I want to be remembered. What am I doing here? Why am I doing it? And then to just see the tape on that and him to progress in that was inspiring to me as a young man, not too much younger, how much he accomplished that he wanted to accomplish at that age. Beautiful family, 2 young kids, beautiful wife. So that was immediately what I took away before anything else.
The thing for me to just think about with Charlie, I was living in Washington, D.C., the turn of the century. What a weird way to say it. Huh? It's true, though. And the big discussion in the first few years of the 21st century is what to do about marriage. And I would talk about this, because the left was on the prowl. They wanted to completely gut marriage laws and redefine it to end the coupling of 2 humans. The uniqueness of marriage, like just forgetting about all of that. Like, the whole point of the institution of marriage is to try to create a partnership between a man and a woman, and for the children that they bring into the world, and to dole out the responsibilities for each of them. And so many conservatives I met, so-called conservatives or Republicans I would talk to when I was, living and working in the Beltway, just like they went out of the way to tell me how much they didn't care about the issue, as if it was virtuous for them to be like, oh, I don't care. I'm not bothered by it. Dude, you're not a hero. Shut the hell up. Like, you're the problem. And I just felt like for so long, the conservative movement was like, and Republicans or whatever, like asleep at the wheel as the left was on the march, with the next phase of the sexual revolution. And the Republicans, they put up the white flag, immediately. And they surrendered, like, without even really much of a fight. So I have to tell you, like, with the trans stuff, that the conservatives and Republicans, that the GOP is like talking about, the trans stuff in a way that's like beneficial instead of just ignoring it. Like, they're engaged in this fight. Like, this, for me, it's like, oh, thank goodness, because for so long on anything socially conservative, between marriage or abortion, anything, it was all individual Christians, like evangelicals, Catholics, Catholic Vote, whatever, Family Research Council, fighting it alone. And the Republican Party is like, whatever, dude, we're just going to try to bomb other countries and cut taxes. So we're not going to oppose you, but they wouldn't lift a finger. They wouldn't do anything. And so, Charlie, as you mentioned, realizing that we're in a spiritual battle and helping other people to understand that and to open up their eyes was one further development in this in a major way, which is helpful. I think a lot of people, their eyes started to open up when the left went after Kavanaugh during the confirmation hearings in 2018 in a way that was just outrageous. And no lie, no matter how completely untied from reality, they're willing to deploy to politically murder, Kavanaugh, to politically assassinate.
And it almost came true. Like, someone went to go assassinate.
They almost succeeded. And so, like, if you're willing to tarnish a man's character like that, how much different is it to actually pull the trigger and kill him? It is obviously different, but like the Catechism talks about, like, it is a sin against the commandment, "Thou shalt not to kill," to smear somebody's name. It's like a death. And that's what they did with Kavanaugh, and they actually did with Charlie Kirk. And so, like, the frustration of wanting other people on my side to wake up, to understand what time it is, as more and more people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. The other side is actually dastardly, and they want ill will of us, and they're cheering when Charlie Kirk gets murdered, when Charlie Kirk seems like a total normal guy. And people start realizing it. If they had said what Charlie Kirk had said, which they believe,
we are all Charlie
they
Kirk,
would have cheered if you died.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I was going through the list of high profile political violence was like the word of the year. Like Luigi Mangione, of course, comes up, assassinating the CEO.
Oh my gosh, that was just this year.
Yeah, that was this year. The Brown students that just got killed, still, as of this recording, don't have a person in custody. The MIT professor was just murdered, the nuclear scientist. Catholic Church in Minnesota attack on the children in school. The LDS Church in Michigan that was burned. There's the murder of the Minnesota state legislators, Melissa Hortman and her husband. Still not a ton on that at this point. And then there's that attack on the ICE Prairieland detention facility in Alvarado, Texas. There's a couple,
we had
actually.
the murder of the National Guardsman from West Virginia in DC at the end of the year. And all of this, it was crazy in all of these to see the cheering on of people like Luigi Mangione and the cheering of the deaths. But Josh, like you said, I think Charlie, that moment did wake up a lot of people to what time it is in the United States. And as sobering as it is to think about, it's also salutary, right? Like salubrious, to use the big word, that to see the truth of where you're at and to understand the times in which you're called to live. And I think Charlie did that not only in his death, but also in his life and how he lived. And we're better for having had him. And I pray for Erica every day, every time I see her face. And
certainly didn't live in fear. No question about that.
No.
And then briefly, I think, there's this much ink now has been spilled over the splintering of the right after winning this triumphant election with Donald Trump in 2025. It seemed like we had all this momentum, and then, Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. And then it seems like everyone now is at each other's throats. One thing that I will say I've noticed is I can't even remember the last time we've talked about like any Democrat or anyone on the left has really become like a main conversation right now. It feels like all the main conversations are happening on the right. And I think the one thing, at least to me, was that Charlie Kirk was facilitating conversations based on what young Americans actually wanted to debate. And in this case, foreign policy in terms of Israel, their handling of Gaza, our relationship to them financially, and then as an ally. And he facilitated debates like Dave Smith and Josh Hammer. He had Tucker Carlson and AmFest, to much pressure. It was a conversation that especially young Americans wanted to have, and it felt like he was kind of the bridge between the groups at play, like the young Americans, or maybe the side that is not in favor of our foreign policy regarding there, and then people that were in favor of that, were supporting that. And it feels like after he left, it was like everyone is just at each other's throats.
Well,
that's how it feels.
I mean, well, and Kevin Roberts, a friend of mine at Heritage, and I think he was trying to keep that same kind of thing going, but he kind of fumbled the football a little bit there, and the backlash there was kind of unfortunate.
He got burned at the stake. I mean, what do you mean unfortunate? I think that was one of the most embarrassing moments for Heritage, period. He didn't. I can understand the tone deafness, but to think and treat Kevin Roberts like he was an anti-Semite or something like that was so unbelievable. Especially knowing Kevin Roberts and then listening to the speech, nothing he said in that speech was even close to anti-Semitic. So I was really frustrated with that because I know the guy that helped write the speech, and he's like a good guy about my age, patriotic American. And I think maybe what frustrates me about this whole splintering is I actually think we agree on 90 to 95%. And to think that anyone in this fight can go partner with, say, like the left that hates your guts and wants to kill you, or say like the international community, say like Muslim countries or something, like there's no future for either part of this if they can't get along and work together. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like weird bot activity or like this just feels like a perfect recipe. If you wanted to splinter the coalition, do exactly what you did and then foment.
Well, some part of the coalition that we shedded has been beneficial because the neocons that came into the Republican Party for the global war on terror, like the Bill Kristols of the world, happy to see you go, brother.
Yeah.
And the Dispatch and all those guys, that was removing a cancer. And of course, Bill Kristol endorses Mamdani for mayor. I mean, that was
another thing that happened in 2025, man.
Mamdani happened.
You know, we got a communist elected mayor of our largest city. Insane. So, I mean, that's there's a lot of these things that have happened this last year which are terrible. But again, if more and more people's eyes are being awakened, like give credit to Christopher Rufo and getting the information out about the fraud with the Somalians that were in my native state of Minnesota, where, you know, 80+% of people are, 80% of the Somali homes are on some form of welfare or assistance. And it turns out they created this big Ponzi, you know, fraud scheme where they claim, you know, super high percentages of their kids were autistic and they're getting tons of money and they're just funneling that money back to Somalia. They were fleecing, you know, the people I grew up with, Scandinavians who have, you know, big hearts, and they want, let's have a generous welfare state. And Somalians took them for suckers. And they're like, oh, what are you gonna do? We'll call you racist if you object. It's like, it's just, to me, just.
Yeah, I think that kind of gets back to the immigration thing that we maybe all agree on. But Eric, I want to give you a chance too, because you're probably the most level-headed about all of this in terms of like the splintering, the angry young right going forward. I don't know if this is like a predictions element or just a diagnosis element, or like, how do you feel about all of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a sadness watching it happen. There's no surprise. I do think, you know, in order to win the election, Trump did the impossible, and he created such a large tent that coming into power after those first few like halcyon days of, I'm going to sign all this, we're going to fix all these problems, which he fixed so many problems and is in the process of undoing so much of the damage that we suffered. I think it is inevitable, just in the human way of things, that a large coalition like that is then going to have to spend a lot of time deciding what actually unites us. And as concrete decisions are being made and priorities are being set and reset, that forces different minorities within the coalition to have these conversations. So that's like the 60,000 foot view, is no surprise, not shocked.
I mean, we'll see. I mean,
yeah.
Right. I want to.
On the other hand, like drilling down the Kevin Roberts with the heritage thing, like you said, I am convinced that there was a spiritual aspect to that. I don't want to get all crazy Candace Owens on anyone, but like, I really do believe that this is the, you know, there are evil forces in the world, and the thing that they love to use, the thing that Satan loves to use the most, is the fog of war. And when you're in a cultural war like this, whenever there's ambiguity, deception, there's, you know, jockeying for power, they just, you know, that Satan just inserts himself, and these things tend to happen. But we have to be clear-eyed about it and realize when we're going down these paths of like, oh my gosh, this person said this about Israel, or this person said this about Candace Owens or XYZ, to like take a second pause and step back and take a deep breath. I think several things can be true at once. Like Josh was saying, well, no, it was you, Tom. You're saying how Epstein, that did so much damage to the Trump coalition. The Charlie Kirk fallout did so much damage. There were so many ups and downs. The whole Israel peace plan, Hamas, Gaza, so much. But we have to keep in our mind that two things can be true at once. One, yes, we are governed by elites. And yes, there is still an elite class in power in Washington that does not always care for those balloons. But at the same time, it does matter who's in power. It does matter that we elected Trump and not Harris. And it is leagues better where we are now, that we can be having these conversations and dissensions and fights on the right freely instead of being arrested. Thank you, Josh. And yeah, I would much rather be where we are now on the right than what could have been where we were 18 months ago, thinking that Joe Biden very well could defeat Trump.
And just as a snapshot in time, like obviously there's a lot of fissures and infighting on the right now, as you're pointing out, Tom. But just to give a picture of what it's like on the other side. So Harry Enton at CNN just said that congressional Democrats have a negative 55 net approval rating. It's an all-time low, lower, as he said, than the Dead Sea. Two causes. Democratic voters gave the Democrats in Congress a negative 6-point net approval rating. and they're at negative 61 points amongst independents. So the effect of this
Awkward.
is that Democrats, their lead on the generic congressional ballot, which is a test of who might win, next November, especially the House. The Democrats' lead on the generic battle is less than half of what it was at this point in the 2018 and 2006 cycles, which were both very bad.
Midterms for
For the Republican Party. 06 was particularly a bloodbath, painful.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective, Josh, because one of the, I know there's tons of mudslinging right now, but one of the worst things that I saw was someone's like, oh, you shouldn't care about that because it's going to be bad for the midterms. I just don't think it's ever a good strategy to tell people what they should and shouldn't care about. And I think in the spirit of Charlie Kirk, hopefully the idea, well, first, it's already out of the bag. The American right, Americans in general, need to be able to have open and honest public debate about whatever issue they choose to. In this case, foreign policy in terms of our relationship to Israel should be on the table. Whether or not you prefer it not to be, it has to be. It's going to be a question for 2028, no question. And the hope would be you can have a respectful, honest, open conversation as an American without the same kind of hysterics that you see on the left over canceling people for having the wrong opinion or smearing them with names such as anti-Semite. Now, I'm sympathetic to the fact that there probably are some people that are really anti-Semitic and that's bad. That's okay. You can call it out. You can say that's bad. But there's people that hold really standard, views, especially like in my position as a young man, I just know this is the case. You're going to need to answer it. And if you answer it disingenuinely, like people like Ted Cruz, like people like Lindsey Graham, it's not going to end well for you. And the more that you try to censor that out of current discussion, say with like labeling Miss Rachel as anti-Semite of the year, it's so embarrassing and an own goal to the point where like, why are you doing it? Like what happened to Heritage? Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL, for those that are wondering, it's like a left-wing organization, is giving orders to Kevin Roberts with Heritage about what he should and shouldn't say at Heritage is insane. Like no one should accept that framing. Mm-hmm. So the new right, I guess you could call it, is emerging. My hope that moving forward is that we can have sensible, honest, and like moving forward type conversations in 2026, because the reality is the coalitions need to work together. There is no future where you split it down the middle and then like the left isn't going to take you. Certainly we saw how they reacted after Charlie Kirk got killed. And then the new immigrant, come in for the votes from third world countries, they're not going to help you either. So I'm telling you, like I just really want people to get together and start being honest. I hope that's possible. Because I just feel like that's what sensible people really think, regardless of the extremes on both sides. So that's my hope for 2025. I feel like I have to say it because we dance around it a lot, but hopefully that's good enough. All right. I don't even know if we have good. This episode's long because I guess 2025 was long.
It was a very long year.
Finally, we have a new pope.
Yes.
Wow.
What a story.
This is a year we get a new president, a new pope, and a new president of CatholicVote. Because we have
Mercer, you've been waiting for this year the entire lifetime of the Loopcast. I believe we had 3 years in a row where you predicted that we would get a new pope.
So let's actually fully rewind to the beginning. So Pope Francis passing away. I'll say for myself, I was doing a lot of reflecting towards the end of his life, and I even kind of noticed somewhat of a change in his own speaking. Someone like much more in touch than me was like, he was thinking about the end of his life. And, for all of the debates and the, consider bad policy or whatever, I just kind of was coming to terms with like, okay, this man's at the end of his life, the leader of the global church at the end of his life. And this is it's a moment of mourning. Like I pray for Pope Francis, pray for the church. And like, I remember being really, nervous and uncertain about what was to come. I mean, there's no guarantee that what was going to come after would be good or bad or anything. It was just like, it kind of felt like, oh my gosh, like there's no leadership right now. I remember just being really, that's how I felt in the moment. I'm not sure how you guys felt about, the conclave and everything going on.
Well,
yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I don't know if Erica should go.
It's difficult. I think he had such a vitriol towards traditionalists and conservatives. But when he died and I went to Rome for the conclave, I went to St. Mary Major and where he was entombed, and I prayed for him. I wish everyone to join our Lord, our Heavenly Father in paradise, obviously. But his record as Pope on a lot of policy matters was terrible. On theological stuff, though, was also terrible. And then just in general, like the way he, Ross Doth had talked about that a lot. Like, so sometimes conservatives can tend to be the older brother, in the prodigal son story, but like the dad in the prodigal son story is like, dude, I love you. What are you talking about? Whereas Francis is like, shut up, I hate you. And so that was kind of tough for a lot of people. You got that feeling that he really detested you. So I don't know.
Erica?
Just like Josh said, I hope that he goes to heaven. It was a very mixed feeling. I think that at the time we were talking about his passing, and it felt like sort of like the dad you didn't really get along with passing along, or maybe the dad you were a little estranged from passing on.
Still your dad.
Still your dad.
Yeah.
Still the head of the family. Still going to feel his absence. But I think looking forward and going through the conclave, it's always, this is the third one I was really tuned into. And it's always amazing to just be part of the Catholic Church at moments like this, and to, because we're so deep in U.S. politics, and America's a baby little country.
This was the third one you were into?
Third? Well, because I wasn't really paying attention. Well, so I had Pope John Paul II. That was the first one.
Hey, never ask a woman that.
Never ask a woman. And
Josh,
you
never ask a woman.
Not even alive.
Josh, you already know my salary. I mean, this is getting really personal at this point.
It's like, there's only been 3 conclaves in your life. That's my point.
You were correct. Okay. So,
yeah, you could be vague.
That means you're young. I mean, you're younger than me. I have 2 more conclaves than you.
There you go. So yeah, but it's always, it gives you so much perspective on like where we are and like what really matters in life. And I kind of entered into that and prayed for Pope Francis's soul. Also,
Mercer, if you got a dip, I understand. We can just round out, and whenever you got to go. I understand. But so the one thing you brought this up, and that was immediately obvious to me. I wasn't really paying attention for when Pope Francis had the conclave. I think it was in high school. I had other things on my mind. And then for this one, though, you said, okay, this is a cool moment to be Catholic. America's young. There's so much tradition and history there.
Yeah.
I remember the whole world kind of stopping. Like, I always know that the world kind of shifts to coverage.
Yeah.
But then the images are coming out of the pictures with the robes and the architecture and the secrecy and the...
People are like, Catholicism is based. Okay. This is awesome.
This happens every time, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Every time. 78, 2005, 2013, 2025. The world stops. Like the funeral of Pope John Paul II was so epic. They had the book, and the pages of the gospel were just like flipping over. And it's like just everything about it was just chills. Like, we do everything so impressively, and all the different, secret. And this is why, they tap him on the head and make sure he's dead. And then they lock the doors for the conclave, and then, all this stuff. And they have 2 doctors inside, and you're like, well, this is...
And the smoke.
Yes.
Who could forget the seagulls? I have the seagulls.
Oh yeah. Also, Josh, you were there.
Put up there. Yeah, he was there.
They not only do they do the smoke, that as soon as the white smoke goes off, every single bell in the city of Rome goes. So I was recording something with you, wasn't I? And we get done, and then 10 minutes later, I hear every bell go off, and I'm like, that boy's got to run.
Well, yeah, you were a hot commodity because you were over there. So we were trying to, like, the Italian Wi-Fi's bad, so we're trying to set you up and make sure that the audio's fine. You're like, I just had McDonald's over here. And then I remember, this is so dumb. So I don't know what I was thinking. I thought there was going to be a longer conclave. So I usually will kind of wear something appropriate to be on camera. Not that what I was wearing inappropriate. I was wearing like a graphic tee, like a Indianapolis 500 graphic tee.
He is
and
always
like
fully dressed. For the
yeah,
episode.
right. And like a, what do you call that? A flannel.
Yeah.
And we're all watching it in the Catholic Vote office. And I didn't think much of it. Like, we were doing these updates, and then all of a sudden just people started screaming. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so stupid. Today's the day. Because how many, it wasn't only 4? Like, it wasn't, how many
It was pretty
ballots was it?
quick.
It was pretty
I might have been
fast.
the 5th ballot, but it was quick. Yeah.
Really quick. And I was like, oh, this is going to last like a week, dude. They're going to be in there
No, I,
debating.
I thought it was going to be at least another day, maybe even a day and a half afterwards. So it was sooner than I had anticipated. That's
It was
true.
very quick.
And then, of course, the most surprising part, it was an American.
I couldn't believe it. I mean,
don't think anyone
we're not
could.
going to play. We're not going to go back and play that episode of LOOPcast.
Yeah, not
not
proud of
our
that.
shining moment, I have to say.
Well, first off, I thought the
watch
guy
out.
that came out to announce was the Pope, which I was like, I'm stupid. That was immediately like, this is bad.
That was
Bad
just
look
a
for
rookie
me.
mistake, Pogo. That's okay. You're young.
Yeah.
It's your first
He's wearing
conflict
red.
you
I
paid
don't know.
attention
And then, anyway, so then we get Pope Leo, and
It was-
whoa.
Oh man, I have to say, it's been pretty fun having an American Pope.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you kidding me?
It's been great.
It's been kind of fun having a pope that doesn't hate me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
been nice
so
too.
on a genuine note, what I was talking about with Pope Francis, like Josh, obviously it feels, similar sentiment, especially young formative years. And then also, of course, Traditionis Custodes, like I've been kind of trad adjacent Latin Mass circles, brutal, right? Like brutal.
Yeah.
Everyone there felt like they were being targeted.
Well, and
And-
like gay
Pachymama,
same-sex couple
Rabbit.
blessing.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's just like one-
Amoris Laetitia. There was not.
Yeah. One
We
battle
were
after
scarred.
another.
We were
One
scarred.
battle after another. But yeah, again, like the complicated feelings though of like, this is still your dad, even if he's like far away, like he is the head of the church as your father, even if you have a weird relationship with him. And then with Pope Leo, the one moment so I was at the Pope Leo Mass where he gave the address to the youth in Chicago at White Sox Stadium, which of course, like, I mean, how great is that? Like American Pope, we're at White Sox Stadium. He's giving an address on the Jumbotron. And I remember Cardinal Supich gave a homily that was politically charged in which he didn't choose his words very well, in my opinion. And it was just like, like roll your eyes. Like I expected it, but I was like, it was so different than the rest of the vibe of the day. Even like I did a video, like I went around and asked people how they're feeling. Everyone was so positive. Everyone was so uplifting. And of course, then he does that and you're like, ugh. And then Pope Leo gives an address. And I immediately felt the difference between their tone. Like Pope Leo could have taken that opportunity to make it political, to say something about immigration, whatever. And I think kind of as we've gotten accustomed to his style is not off the cuff, charged, interviews on airplanes. It was very thoughtful and it was timeless. And it just felt like a breath, like you could just almost breathe. Like you didn't need to be on your guard, ready to fight, ready to, pick it apart. It just kind of felt like he was speaking to you in a very like calm pastoral way. And I'd say like the one thing that's really marked his tenure so far that I felt in that moment have continued to feel is like, he's very thoughtful and intentional about his words and like, praise God. Like, it feels like we kind of need that right now. I think even like, how he's handled the various conflicts or like with Gaza, certainly like he's been like a leading humanitarian voice for that conflict, for Russia, Ukraine, for AI, for immigration, like even his words on immigration, very measured, very thoughtful. He's not tossing things out on airplanes. And that's what's really stuck away from me. And I feel like public opinion polls show this, like he's super popular with the world, not just Catholics. And I think that's kind of part of the recipe. It's like,
He won me
he's
over.
different than
He won
what
me
else is
over
going
when
on.
when he named John Henry Newman a doctor of the church. I'm sold. I was just so sold. And that was later in the year this year, but close to my heart. I was so happy.
Well, he did appoint a really good man to be Archbishop of New York. So,
Yeah.
that's good. We'll
that's
see.
hopeful.
Yeah, young too. And Pope Leo's really young too. That was the other thing a lot of people were surprised about. We're probably
Yeah,
going to have him
younger
as
guy.
Pope for a long haul here. It's nice to have some youth. And then when he comes to America,
Oh my God.
is he scheduled to come in 2026?
I think it's 27. I think it's
27?
like
Okay.
fall.
If he comes back to
I think
Chicago.
he'll be here in 2026 for America's 250th. That's my guess.
Dude.
Oh, dude. that would be so cool.
And to come through Chicago. Oh my God.
If I were him, I would go to Philadelphia and Chicago. Those are the two cities he has the closest connection with. He spent 4 years or so at Villanova. And
Well, in
yeah, obviously
Philadelphia,
Chicago, where he's from, you know.
Constitution was written there.
He spent time in Michigan too, Josh.
Well, Philadelphia, not just because he lived there for many years going to school there, but because, yeah, as Eric is alluding, it's the cradle of American freedom with the Declaration of Independence being signed there. So it'd be like totally perfect.
Pope Leo running up the Rocky Steps.
Oh. That's where his brain went. I was thinking more like ringing the Liberty Bell, but we could do Rocky too.
No, the Liberty Bell is broken.
Dude, I bet Pope Leo could fix it. Do you have
bam.
full faith? Bam.
That would be amazing.
Miraculously fix the Liberty Bell.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. And then of course, I mean, how can we forget? Brian Birch is the ambassador to.
I didn't forget. I mentioned it at the top.
I knew you mentioned it up top, but of course, this is
Here.
part of the story. 2 men from Chicago, one a White Sox fan, one a Cubs fan. The president of our organization. Josh, you had to have thought like Brian is never going to leave. I never thought Brian would leave. Like this is a perfect job. Is still like perfect job for him. Is his baby. You guys worked on it forever. It was going to take a miracle for him to leave. And of course, when Brian was named, it would have been for Pope Francis, but then he passes away and then another man from Chicago. I mean, just the story of it is, it's like, there's going to be a documentary.
Yeah, and frustrating too for, Democrats had to delay that. And it's like, there's the death of a Pope. Why don't we have our ambassador there when, we're going to have a conclave? Because it's not like they get a new Pope the next day. It's like weeks. It's like, confirm him so we can go. Democrats like, no.
Yeah, that was really embarrassing and petty.
Spiteful.
In my opinion.
So he finally got confirmed in August.
How do you feel about all that? I mean, you can't share anything. I don't know if you can share anything that's
Yeah, it was quite the year for
not
Josh.
confidential, but maybe cool story of Brian there so far.
It's been pretty interesting. It was kind of funny too, because Clay Travis is a conservative talk show host, and he came by the Vatican with I think some of the owners of the Washington or of the Chicago White Sox, and so they brought like a White Sox jersey, and they showed Brian it, and Brian's with Clay and all these other guys holding up the jersey, and he's smiling because he's a diplomat. And of course, I had to give him a little grief. I'm like, dude, you're a total Cubs fan. What the heck is with this? And so he sends me another photo just to me of him holding the jersey alone, just going like,
Yeah.
nastiest look on his face,
He can just say it's AI now.
That's right.
Exactly. So, and he's had some other stories, but,
I
some
got
stories
plenty
will have
close
to wait.
this. Some stories will have to wait. Okay, they'll come out in the documentary one day.
Right. I want to be the biographer. Can you get me that job, Josh? Can I be?
He must have the most children living in the ambassador estate probably ever, right?
Well, so when he was initially, nominated, the Department of State was totally freaked out about this. The diplomatic corps, they're like, 9 children. What are we gonna do? And it's like, actually, okay, hold on a second. Some of them have already graduated from college and they're married and they have children. I mean, this is not like, they're not like, age 1 to like,
it's not like Cheaper
12.
by the Dozen.
Yeah, right.
And they're like,
kids grow up.
Okay. So only 4. Okay. Well, okay.
We could do that. We could do that.
That we could probably manage. So.
Yeah, those great pics of them arriving, of like all the kids running on the lawn.
So
And like they play games and different parts of the state. So cool. And then didn't Ross it was at the embassy. He did that interview with JD.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Which was pretty sick. The cinematography team at the New York Times, you got to give them credit. They know what they're doing.
I mean, they have the equipment, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay. Any final thoughts going into 2026?
Okay, guys, I always have to ask you both this because you are my window into the sports world. So, Super Bowl 2026 predictions, bold predictions. Be bold. Come on, don't be boring. Don't be like Rams.
Bold prediction: the Bears are moving their stadium to Indiana. They will be known as the Hammond Bears.
Not happening at all.
That was some cold water you just dumped on.
That's going to be, you're going to already hear about that because when I do the show, the last show before the break, I am hammering that because they're in a tense negotiation right now with Chicago because Illinois can't get their act together. And Indiana's like, come on in. We'll take the Bears. Come on in. Hilarious. Predictions for the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure I said Lions, and we should have. I can't believe we lost.
No. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Oh,
I
he's
know.
in pain. The
No,
boys-
because I'm like, this year is like, I don't even know if we're gonna make the playoffs. It's like really tight. But if I got to be honest, this is the first year with no Mahomes too. Vikings definitely not winning the Super Bowl. Can cross.
Yeah,
them
they're
out.
eliminated. Well, I'll say first. I mean, I think the Eagles will actually surprise the Rams. You know,
What?
and sneak into the Super Bowl. Eagles just.
Oh yeah, they're gonna make. Or do you think they're gonna make the Super Bowl? That is bold.
I mean, the Eagles, they just find ways to win. I don't know.
No.
I'm not a fan, obviously, but
No.
Well, this went over like a
No. I got it.
Okay.
I got Broncos.
Oh, okay.
Broncos, Rams, and then I have the Broncos winning.
Okay. You heard it right here.
You heard it here first. Sean
Josh?
Payton, good coach. Bo Nix, up and coming quarterback. Lots of talent in that Broncos defense. That's my call. Rams are awesome. I mean, we just ran another Rams buzzsaw.
Yeah, I'll just say Eagles over Broncos.
All
Okay.
right. You heard it right here. We'll check back in February, guys.
Patriots, Erica? Pretty good.
I think they have a shot at making it. I think they might make the championship, but I don't know. They're
Mahomes.
really young. This is like their first really good year back, so I feel like they need another year to ramp up. But I am excited about them for the first time in forever.
Yeah.
Got
Actually,
merch out.
I did a lot of
where am I?
maybe useless research on how stadiums are financed, and Foxborough is one of the only ones that are privately financed 100%.
Oh, there we
So
go.
they don't do any private public partnership. They just paid for the whole thing. Same with SoFi out in LA.
Nice.
Because part of the problem with the Bears is that they require a lot of places are publicly financed. They have a partnership. And of course, like the Bears did their end. So the McCaskies paid their end, and Illinois is in so much debt. And then JB Pritzker is trying to run for president that they don't want to be seen capitulating to a private company, the Bears, by holding up their end of the bargain. And then the Bears, McCaskey ownership owns that Arlington Heights track. It actually used to be a dog track. And I know because I got family in Illinois now. And people are excited about that, but they can't build the infrastructure. They just want Illinois to build the infrastructure around it. And they're still refusing to do so. So that's why the guy's just like, we'll move to Indiana. Like, we'll go in India. And then all of a sudden, what's his name? Todd Young, the senator from Indiana, is like, come on over. Like
Governor Mike Brown was like, let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah, Mike Brown's like, the Indiana Bears sound pretty good.
The Indiana Bears.
And they do have much more sound financials as a state. It's not even close. And lots of Illinois people bleed over to Indiana. So that'd be interesting.
I mean,
Anyway.
nothing's impossible. I mean, of course, as one commentator once said, you got 3 teams from New York, but only one actually plays in New York,
Yeah, true.
So true.
True. Yeah, they can still keep the name. One famous commentator, do you believe in miracles?
What about Al Michaels? What about him?
I just wanted to say it.
Okay.
Good year of Loopcast, gang. It's going to be an even better 2026.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys after the ball drops. I believe we got a Friday show coming. And we'll be back in the saddle. So happy New Year's to everyone. Merry Christmas. And we will see you guys then. Peace.